Well, that was not a fun week to experience, but we all knew there was a decent chance of it happening. I don't think we've seen a double loss week for a long, long time in FC Cincinnati land. And yeah, it felt just as bad as I remember from those old several years ago. FC Cincinnati have a lot of work to do and pieces they need to add as they head into League's Cup. It's almost a sigh of relief in a way to get this break. Well, I guess a season break anyway. The guys will still be out in action. Probably get to see a little bit of the players you don't get to see. I'm interested to see how Noonan will approach League's Cup. You're listening to Cincinnati Soccer Talk. I'm Boston Brazel, joined by Brian Biedenbach, Jason Ashcraft, and Jeffrey Tebbets. This crew is going to dive in and dissect FCC and see if we can do a little triage over here. Episode 382 is sponsored by Apollo Home. If you have not yet had your AC inspected, call Apollo. Summer is winding down, and so I'm sure we'll be switching that over to getting your fall heat checked as well. If you ever have HVAC, plumbing, or electrical needs, reach out to Apollo. Give them a call. Book online, apollohome.com. And we thank them for their 2024 sponsorship. Great, great company. All right. Well, best and worst. We might lean a little bit heavily on the worst side for the first time maybe this year. Like everybody's been pretty optimistic, I'd say, the first half of the season. So we're going to see where you guys fall on this. We'll start with you, Jason. Give us your best and worst. And how you doing?
I'm doing well, all things considered, with FC Cincinnati not playing well and the Reds absolutely not playing well. It's not the best time in sports land for me, but best this week, I agree with Clifford in the chat. We're getting a break that is desperately needed. And that we might, punt on League's Cup. I don't know, we might. But we really need a break. I think the team is tired. There's a lot of injuries. We need new folks on the roster, so good time to kind of take a breath. The worst, I actually have two. I only wrote down one. The first worst is that I'm sure a lot of you guys are considered the soccer guy at work, and I had a coworker who he's a Cincinnati guy through and through, but he had never been to TQL Stadium, and I gave him my tickets to the Chicago game. And I was like, here you go. You can just have them, whatever. Everybody should experience FC Cincinnati game. And he sent me a Slack when he got back the next day. He was like, it was a great time, but they forgot to score. And I was like, oh, well. And my other worst is we've been outscored 7-2, I think it is, over the past 3 matches, which for a team that was scoring in bunches leading at, before that, not good at all. So yeah, those are my best and worst.
I'm with you. I took somebody to the Chicago match as well, someone who is not a soccer fan, and I did not change their mind. I didn't win any hearts and minds on that one. I'm gonna have to try again in another year or so, because there's no way I'm getting them out for another game. But I have a story to tell about that as well when I get into my best and worst. I'll try not to jump Jeff Tebbets here. How you doing, Jeff, on this lovely Monday night?
Doing pretty good. Taking some time to try to figure out the mute button again on this thing. Let me just get myself ready here. Okay. Have to go Superman mode here because I heard that Brian Waggle has left his campaign, so I have to pick up in his place. So yeah, it's good to join you guys on a very rare occasion here on the Mondays. It is the case of the Mondays, unfortunately. I'll start with my best, actually, since it feels like it's opposite week this week. At least we didn't have to deal with Frankie Amaya. I mean, that's good enough for anybody, I think. If you've been living in a hole in the ground, Frankie's been transferred to Toluca. I think it was like 3.9 million for the transfer. And the good news is I think we get a little bit of that on the side. So I'm not at all mad about him leaving and letting New York have to try to figure out how to fill that spot. But the worst is, and mine's in two as well, they filled that spot because they faced us. So we are not looking very good at all. We're so inside our heads right now. I mean, looking at 3 straight matches, these 3 straight losses, we were down somebody, in the roster because of a stupid red card or a yellow card accumulation. We didn't have Obi against Charlotte. We didn't have Miles Robinson against Chicago. And because Alvis Powell got a little, insane in the membrane, we lost him for the match against Red Bulls as well as Pat Noonan. So it was really good if you were betting red cards on your prop bet websites out there.
You're wearing retro, what is that, 2017 Cincinnati Soccer Talk gear right there?
Yeah, straight from the bureau of Nick Suberling, I think.
Yeah.
We have 2 of these in our possession, and just felt I should break it out today.
I need to figure out a way to get my hands on a CST t-shirt again, because I have the blue version of that shirt, and it has seen better days. I've worn the crap out of it. So
I think you can still buy it online. I think it's still active.
Oh, is our store still active?
Maybe. Man,
I had no idea. I mean, props to that guy who runs the thing. I think he's up in Toledo. Jay Yates, I'm going to put his best in there because I'm pretty sure you guys are not going to have it. The only good thing about the last several games was the pink lemonade at TQL Stadium. And the reason I want to pop this in here is, what are you talking about? Do you guys know about pink lemonade? I didn't even know this was a thing. Anybody ever seen it? Jay, put in the chat where you get this pink lemonade. I will next match I will go find it.
Is he talking about like an alcoholic drink or something? I mean,
I kind of hope not. I
can't remember the last time I had a non-alcoholic beverage at TQL Stadium.
I kind of hope it is as innocent as it sounds. And I'll go buy some, maybe some cotton candy, pretend like I'm at a fair, and see if we can get some Lucho Costa goals. All right, Brian, before I get completely carried away, how you doing, sir?
I'm good, man. Those are the days, Boston. The cotton candy, the lemonade. Like, you didn't care what else was going on. You were happy no matter what. So maybe that's what we need at TQL right now, a little bit of happiness, because it's not there. And Jeff, great shout to Cypress Hill there, man. Insane in the membrane. It brought back some memories just listening to that. Yeah. So, man, I obviously we've seen better days as Cincinnati fans. So I'm doing as good as I can as I think about the matches, but otherwise things are going well here. I'll start with my worst tonight, because there's a lot of worse. It's amazing that it took 3 matches to feel the thing we felt 3 years ago, that it took that long to get there, and almost where this point where there's no hope, not that there's not hope. We've got a window here. We've got a break. We've got some time to bring guys in, but it get to the end of the second half of that Red Bulls match, and it's feeling like the wheels have come off. The ship needs to be righted. Like, whatever metaphor you want to use, right? We gotta get things back together. So that was just a sinking feeling I had. My best though, to follow up Jason's 7-2, being outscored 7-2 in the last 3 matches. I do think we've gotten on Celentano the last several weeks here on the show just for decision making and things, but I think he came up with some pretty fantastic saves in the last couple matches. A guy was bombarded because we've got holes in our defense all over the place, and I think he made some good saves to keep it from being more than a -5 goal differential. It really could have been. So if we had to find a best, I think I'd find that.
And I'm over here talking away. I said you're digging deep there. We were a little tough on Celentano the last couple weeks, so I mean, good for you to build him back up.
Somebody's got to.
I will say, just to tack on maybe for a best for the week, at least the teams that are around us haven't gone win-win-win in their last 3 games. So it's not like we've lost a ton of ground against some of these guys ahead of us or right behind us. Columbus lost Atlanta last Saturday. So
yeah, that's huge. I think that's huge.
Yeah. So the results are at least not, absolutely horrible.
Now we play Miami again. So there's some silver lining, but I think FCC basically has to keep up the pace here, or their supporter shield looks like it could squirrel away there. I don't know if Miami's going to be dropping as many points as we are. So, yeah, we're going to dive into, I think, some of that strategy here in a bit. My worst, aside from the play on the field Wednesday versus Chicago, was I changed seats. For the first time, I sat on the other end of the stadium, kind of behind where the player families are, but up against that wall. And when I say up against the wall, there's a wall that's painted blue. And I never noticed it before, but it's huge, and it's kind of like blocking the view of the Bailey on the left side of the stadium, or on the west side of the stadium. There is zero, and I mean zero, wind flow, because that huge concrete wall just stops all air in its tracks. Like I felt like I was breathing the same air I was exhaling. Like that's how stagnant it was over there. I've always said there's not a bad seat in TQL Stadium. There's a bad seat. I found it. It sucks.
And that's where they put the players' families, huh?
No, they're further down. So
Oh,
they're in front of the wall. Like they could actually see the Bailey. I could not. Like if I turn left, I'm staring at blue concrete. Like, so it is yeah, look for it. You can actually kind of see it's a big giant concrete wall. Didn't know it was there. Bad spot. Don't ruin your season tickets if you're listening there.
I've always thought they should get some of those real. I mean, the company is actually called Big Ass Fans, but you know those giant ceiling fans that they put up in places like warehouses and stuff.
Yeah,
they should put some of those in the concourses of TQL Stadium. 100% do that. Yeah, get some air movement in there.
It's genuinely pretty comfortable, I think. But that was a rough spot, and did not love it. Going back to my old trusty seats next time. The good season tickets renewals came out this week. Everybody gets to give FC Cincinnati more money for these new players. So congratulations out there, all of you. You wanted the players. You can now put your wallets where your mouth is and help pay for Boop's buyout and anything else. You know, the trades going on, all these big adjustments we need. I'm sure we can help Carl Linder out. He needs it. So get ready to dig deep. And no, it's always exciting because it means you're signing up for another year of a thing you love. So that's kind of cool. Although I think some of us, at least what I could see online, got a little bit of sticker shock depending on where you sat. Pretty uneven. Some seats around the stadium got just small increases. Others pretty big ones. It was kind of funny to talk amongst ourselves, like who got what. I think right now Brad Weigel is winning. He took the cake for the most expensive percentage increase. I think he's at 15% on his seats, which is that's a toughie.
We're basically like showing off. It's that thing from like the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, where everyone shows off the candy that they got.
Yeah.
And Brad's like, I got a rock.
But I've sat in his seats. He has pretty good seats. So, I mean, I think what they've done is the further, like the closer you are, the more you might pay. It kind of looks like that to me. And he has like that first row right above the pitch view, not pitch view, but like those little boxes on the side of the field.
Yeah.
And so it's a good spot. And FCC must have finally figured it out and charged him because he paid way less than I did. So congratulations, Brad. Welcome to the club. But no, I hope you out there didn't get too bad of an increase. And overall, you know, I saw somebody comment and say, "Whoa, can't believe the club's trying to make us pay for tickets when, you know, they're losing games like this." And I was like, it's 3 games. It's been 3 games. Like, we're so spoiled. I mean, unless you're LAFC, the Columbus Crew, or Real Salt Lake, or Miami, every other team in the league would trade us right now in a heartbeat. With our 3-game loss, they would still trade us. So we are spoiled, but it's kind of fun. All right, guys, let's get into it. We're going to dive into it. Segments. We got 2 teams. You know, what do you want to start with? Chicago, New York? I guess we could probably mix it all together if we want, because we have 2 losses. The Chicago one was a pretty slow and stale one. No Lucho Acosta. Obi was suspended with a red card, had to sit that one out. And then we go to New York.
No, hold on. Obi was in that game.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Obi missed the game.
Miles
before that.
Robinson is what I'm
Miles.
thinking of. Yeah, thanks for the correction there. Then we go to New York and break our streak. We could not break the MLS record. If we would have won that game, I think it would have been solely FC Cincinnati's, but alas, was not meant to be. New York gets the sweep, and in a year that FCC's won a lot of games, so that's pretty crazy. And that game was 3-1, so a little bit of a, never felt like we were in that one either. Let's dive into it. Weird lineup versus Chicago. Anybody confident without Lucho Acosta on the field there? I mean, Chicago's not a good team, though, so theoretically, you should be able to skate by. What's your first thought seeing this lineup? Because it was an odd one.
I think that's the one Kubo started up top, right? And Baird underneath him and Dotto.
Yeah, Yedlin's like a center back, and
yeah. I don't know. I really like that sword formation when Lucho and Orishano were in the middle there and Kubo up top, and we had Obi behind them, and we had a decent back line or a back line that could hold at least. I don't know that I like that formation with the personnel we had on the pitch that night. I think we struggled with that. We need playmakers in the middle in those top two, and I think Dotto's still trying to find his way as that playmaker, and I don't think Baird's that playmaker. Maybe put him up top and switch him with Kubo in that formation, but those three just aren't as fluid as we saw Orishano and Lucho and Kubo. So, that was my initial thoughts going into that lineup is I would have liked to have seen us start in a different formation.
Me too.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I mean, I would have liked to have seen the same formation, but with maybe a little bit of a shakeup. I think, like they had said, Kubo at the top, considering how flexible he is, I would have been content with him being maybe in the right wing back spot, and then push Orishano up so that he's next to Dotto, and then maybe have Baird as the guy piercing the top. But the problem is Baird hasn't been really that guy this season. He hasn't been the facilitator or penetrator at the top. So
this was really his entrance back into the lineup, right?
Yeah. Yeah. He was, I think it was a late sub the game before. So it's just a matter of, I think you really needed to figure out if Orishano, he should have been there for, I think, offensive purposes instead of playing his usual doldrums right wing back spot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of where I was coming from, because when I saw that lineup, when we had all the success against Miami, you had, if I remember correctly, Kubo was up top at the point of the sword, but then you had Luca and Lucho as kind of those two guys behind him. And then I saw the lineup and I was thinking, well, Baird, to me, I understand why he's in there, but it would have been more effective for me to have Luca up there, because I think that he is, the dribbly boy 2.0 when it comes between him and Lucho. And I think his skill set really works in that lineup. If you're going to play him at wing back, then I think you need to start playing the diamond or more of a 4-4-2 or something like that.
I think if you weren't missing Robinson in the back, if he was available for that game, then I think you feel safer by using almost the same lineup with Powell at the right back, the center back spot. And then you can afford to put Yedlin on the right and Orishano up next to Dotto. But, we had too many people missing that game.
I think in that lineup, too, with Orishano out on the wing back, we were asking too much of the guy. I think we needed him to play offense, but with the back line that we had, he needed to hang back a little more than he normally would have. But yet we definitely missed his presence moving forward. And so you switch, Kubo's played there a little bit this season, and he's got his ups and downs there, like he does anywhere on the pitch. But I think Orishano's the guy that's going to take guys on more than Kubo. Kubo's going to distribute, and he's going to get in open spaces. Orishano's going to run at you, and he's going to run at you quickly, and he's probably going to beat you, and you're not going to catch him. Now it's going to open up space. If he loses that ball, it's going to open up the middle. Then maybe someone like Kubo there. Sorry, Kubo's up top. I'm talking Baird. If we had put, switch that, put Baird up top and Kubo right back and Orshano up. But yeah, I'm talking myself in circles now, but I do think Orshano in the middle there, he's going to run at guys and get some opportunities that maybe Kubo's not going to take, or Baird.
You're touching on a big point here, and it's that we are no longer playing to our strengths because we're patchwork, right? When you have Orshano not able to be Orshano, and you have Kubo, like I think about the first loss where Kubo is replacing Obi, and you can't have Kubo being Kubo, and you're stuck with all these weird experimentals. I mean, Yedlin is not where he's supposed to be, and we can't get it up, that side of the field now. So it's really this patchwork that's just absolutely killing us. Everybody seems to be out of position and shifted. I mean, is there anyone that's in a new spot that you think's working?
That's a good question. That's a really good question.
I think to some extent, Yedlin is at least pulling some weight as the right center back. He's at least doing his best, but at the same time, they're also asking on him to be the captain of the squad. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, pulling your weight in a new spot and being the captain at the same time, I think is a little much for him to do in that game.
Do you want to go there?
But he's doing his best.
Yeah. It was the better game, of the two that we had.
Yeah, no doubt. I don't think he's got the speed. I think that covers for a lot. I feel like we need somebody with a little bit more height on that right.
Yeah, he's getting torched on those balls up and above.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you had another center back who didn't head the ball directly to the opposing team, then that'd be a different story.
I mean, I love Kip Keller, but it's like when that happened, I'm like, oh no, this is like him back passing last year to a teammate that's no longer his teammate. And I felt so bad. He had the opportunity to really, I think, put his mark on that game. And he played a decent game up until then. It just went in the wrong direction.
He played, I'm looking at Font Mob, and I don't know how much, that one mess up plays into it, but he had the second worst Font Mob rating of the team in that. He had a 5.9. Valenzuela had a 5.8. I like Kip Keller too, but only in very small doses. The depth, we went from having like the deepest and best center back core in the league to now having like a center back core held together with baling wire and duct tape. And we can't get, if this, the Nigerian dude is going to come in. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but we need him like tomorrow. We can't afford to have guys like Keller having an off night or Murphy having an off night or Robinson just not being here with the way that this back line is set up.
And I'm not sold that Keller and Murphy are terrible people. They're just not. They're not the people to run the show, and that's where not having Robinson's just killing us.
I think Murphy, though, has played well. Like, all things considered, Murphy is a starter at other MLS teams. But he's had a lot better talent around him this year to kind of hide some of his flaws.
Yeah, but I think Murphy with Miazga ordering him to, is just phenomenally better than Murphy figuring it out on his own.
Yeah, I think we're missing that veteran leader. I think Keller and Murphy are still young guys that are trying to figure out how to play. And they know how to play, but they need guys directing them. So, Jason, I'd ask you the question. You said Murphy's a starter anywhere else in the league. Do you think at that starting center back, not the left center, but the center back position?
I think he could be. He's not going to be like, maybe not for the best teams in the league, but yeah, I think he's got enough talent to play both the center and the left center back. Font Mob has him rated pretty high in this game. I think he was our best player according to the stats. But I like Boston mentioned, and you mentioned, Brian, we need a veteran presence back there. And right now we don't have that, and Yedlin is playing out of position. So
yeah. Juan on Facebook has said we don't have the depth we thought we had. Full stop. And
good point.
Yeah, Juan, you got a point. I still would argue that we have very talented players on the field. We've just moved them all, and we've shuffled them, and it's all because of one thing: this center back problem. Like the center back problem is the problem.
And that's where we felt like we had the depth, though, and we did. I mean, we had Miazga, Robinson, Hagland, Powell. Like we had all these guys, and one's out on red card later this week. We'll talk about that. Miles was out earlier in the week for red card. Now he's gone for the Olympics. And we know what happened with Miazga and Hagland. Like we had the depth, and it's a series of unfortunate events that just erased that depth at that one position that caused everything else to shift.
The other point I'll give Juan is that I do think our striker core is not as maybe it just isn't as talented and as deep as we had hoped. There may have been Lucho magic that made them seem a lot better early on. I honestly I don't really see the point of Santos and Baird getting any more time unless we just don't have any choice, because there's not what's happening there. I mean, like even with Lucho in the game, it's been crippling.
Well, I don't know that we thought we had really talented strikers early on. Like we were struggling to score goals early on until Kubo took that spot and was told he wasn't good enough to be a starter, and then started scoring a bunch of goals and kind of took that spot over. So I don't know that we look at that and we've got a lot of strikers, but we're not getting a lot of production out of them currently.
Yeah. Production's just dead. What were you thinking, Jeff?
Keep in mind that I think a lot of our, looking at Kubo excelling up top, we're looking at and I love the guy. We're looking at a hat trick against San Jose, and I don't think that's the best barometer of him being back just yet. He's done really well. He has given you goals where you needed goals. But when you take away one person on the pitch and you're forced to shuffle him around to fill in those spots, you just can't use him to the best of his advantage. We're blessed with him being really good at being good in many places, but because of that, he's not in his really good spot.
Which is where would you say?
I'd say I like him being up top, but having him up top without Lucho or even Orishano behind him, and keep in mind, Orishano was benched for half the game against the Red Bulls.
Right.
So there was absolutely no offense in that game.
Right.
So if you put him up there and just don't have anybody behind him, he's a lost soul out there.
And I think you're right. I think the reason I like him up top when Lucho's in the match is because Lucho can find him. Like Kubo gets in spaces that no one else is putting the ball but Lucho. And maybe Luca is putting the ball. That's why he's got a hat trick in that one match. He's got a brace in another match too, I believe, didn't he? Maybe not. Maybe I'm misremembering that. But he finds spaces that Kubo can find him that no one else is finding when they're up top, and not dishing the ball to where Kubo is when he is up there. He's got that connection. I think that chemistry he's built with Lucho over the years. That you're right. He doesn't shine as much as he would when Lucho's behind him.
He had that brace against Miami.
That's right.
Yeah. But even then, I think, Miami was not the team that we expect Miami to be. They were a shell of themselves.
Right.
The biggest trend I've noticed in these last few is we look like snails. I don't know if I've ever seen FC Cincinnati play so slow. That Chicago game, even when we had the ball, it was like we had no ambition to drive forward at any sort of speed, and you just let every single time you let them get set. Right. We had the same issue as Charlotte. Charlotte is already a pretty good defensive team, and you just let them get perfectly set before you actually ever try to do anything. And I get Chicago. You don't have Lucho in there, but even with Lucho against New York, we seem really slow. We just let New York come to us and press us. Is it just?
No, if we're moving on to the Red Bulls game, I think that, they pressed hard, and I was just frustrated that we kept trying to go back and play out of the back when that was not working. Like, we allowed them to keep pressing instead of taking the top off and trying to beat them with a long ball. Not that we would have, but it would have relieved some pressure. And we just kept going back and putting Murphy under pressure and putting Yedlin under pressure and anybody else that was back there. It was tough.
I think one thing I've noticed between these two games, when Lucho is not out there, the team doesn't play. It's almost like they still want to play the same style as if Lucho is in there, but they don't have their quarterback. They don't have the guy through which everything runs. And Dotto, I like Dotto. I think he's a decent enough player, and he's still very young. But Dotto's just not going to be that player. He's not going to be the kind of player that Lucho is. Very few people are. And we run out there, run a very similar lineup or a very similar formation, try to run a very similar offense, and then after it doesn't work for the first 5 minutes, things just break down. And no one knows how to kind of adapt to what's happening when Lucho's not out there to direct them, which has been a problem now for 3 years? How long has he been with us? 3-4 seasons? So, yeah.
I think one of the other reasons why we looked slow out there is because we are allowing the other team to commit fouls on us. There were a lot of fouls committed on us in the Chicago game. There were, I think, Red Bulls had more fouls on us in the past game as well. So that's slowing us down. It might not be these flash a yellow card, and I mean, but we're not even talking about the fact that Fabian Erbers wasn't gone from a second yellow card in that Chicago game. We've played so badly, I forgot all about that. But we're allowing teams to foul us to slow us down, and maybe that's why we looked so slow out there.
Yeah, we're bouncing around, and I think it's because both games have similar problems, so it doesn't really matter which one we're talking about here. We will get into a one game specific item, and that's going to be our good buddy Pat Noonan. There were a lot of cards to the bench, and there was actually, I don't know if you caught it, there was one against the Red Bulls as well to the bench. Pat wasn't there. I don't know if it was, I don't think it was Dom, but I think somebody over there got one right before, right going into.
In the Chicago game?
No, in New York.
New York didn't have, that wasn't, that maybe it was a warning to the bench, but it wasn't a recorded yellow card.
It wasn't a recorded yellow? Okay, because there was
in the Chicago game, you had
something right before the half.
One. Yeah, Arena got one in the Chicago game.
Yeah. Noonan gets 2. Arena gets 1. Powell gets a red card. Pure chaos there from the official. I've heard a lot of takes. Did Pat Noonan lose his cool there? Is that unprofessional, or is that sticking up for your guy? And I kind of just want to touch on this a little bit because it's never happened. It hasn't happened. We've never talked about Pat Noonan, not being there. And I've really never seen him that emotional ever.
I think I remember, was it against Philadelphia, where after the game, he was jawing at the refs and sort of criticizing them for being very unprofessional in response to them. So he will, loosen his lip and yap after games. This is just the first time that I've seen him do it during a game.
And let me follow up with that, because that brought something up, because I know people were giving Pat a lot of stick for not addressing the media after the Chicago match. And I will say, as someone whose job it used to be the media relations person, I can see both sides of it. But MLS is very quick with suspensions. And, I remember one time a particular crosstown shootout where there were some players from Xavier who were allowed to speak after the match or after the game, and it resulted in a bunch of suspensions. And so, I can see why they might have said, "Hey, Pat, you don't want to get up there and say something you'll regret, because it's going to be more than one game if you say something dumb." And I will stick up for the club because I've been in that situation before.
Yeah,
I think it's one thing to stand up for your team. I think the red card probably was a bit much. Probably lost his cool a little bit. I think getting a yellow there the first time was probably all right. But I do think that sometimes you just never know. If we go back to that Miami match when Busquets got that double yellow, it was Busquets, right? They got that double yellow. He hadn't even finished his sentence before that second yellow came out. The ref was quick to give, and I don't remember the sequence of Noonan's yellows, but sometimes refs are, I mean, that ref was quick to give the double yellow to Busquets. I don't know. Maybe he pulled it pretty quick against Pat. Pat was still, finishing his thought. But if you have one, I think you sit back and you don't get that second. You make your point. Maybe you have one of your assistant coaches make a point too. But I don't think as a coach you go that far.
Pat's were like 20 minutes apart, so I think maybe with Busquets, I've heard that Busquets getting the first one, and I think the argument is if you get a yellow card for dissent, you're allowed to sort of continue your sentence. And the ref was a little, I think, impatient. He didn't want to hear any jibber jabber with that one, so he brought it up pretty quickly.
Yeah,
he probably figured that if he didn't give him the second yellow, then he was going to get mobbed by the rest of the team. So I think that was more protection yellow card than anything. But for Noonan, it's we've seen this with Reds games. I mean, there are some days that your manager just cannot take it anymore. But the problem is you don't have a game the next day that you're able to just go in. There is not 162 soccer games in the season. So for him to miss the next one, that's pretty vital.
The Powell thing is really, I think, what did it, right? You had Powell get a yellow card for the foul, and then Powell clearly is trying to remove himself from the situation. There's a little bit of pushing and shoving. Powell puts his hands up, runs away. A guy follows him and is in his ear the entire time, as he's trying to escape the situation. Guy, I mean, Chicago player knew exactly. I can't remember who it was. Knew exactly what he was doing. He was just trying to push the button one last time to get Powell to do something stupid, which he did. I mean, the ref, where I was sitting right by it, next to the blue wall, and the ref turns and looks, only sees the Powell shove, which is, we've seen it 1,000 times in sports. It's and you guys that have been coaches probably teach your kids, they're only going to see the last hit. They're never going to see the first one. They're not going to see the harassment. Powell has to keep his cool there because you're already you're already going to lose that game. It's a 2-game skid. And your team needs you. Your team needs you up in the next one because you're missing miles, you're missing people.
Yeah. If I may be misremembering the sequence of events there, but after he throws the guy down, if I remember correctly, the guy, whoever was jawing, came from in front, and another guy came from a side, and that's the guy whether he pushed or he hit him in the throat, whatever you call it. I think that's where the second one came from. Not for getting in the face of the guy that was jawing with him. Is that correct?
I from my point of view, it was all like it was maybe a combination of it, but it was for the very last shove, which was away from the first foul. It was quite a bit of ways away.
I'm kind of surprised he didn't get a straight red because that foul against the board was pretty brutal. I mean, the guy he fouled might have, I wouldn't say flopped, but might have looked to embolden it a little bit by stumbling a little bit more, but he took a bad spill into the boards. I'm kind of surprised you can get a red from that. So I'm okay with the double yellow.
Yeah. Either way, he lost his cool. The way he threw the guy, I thought was pretty egregious, but yeah.
Yeah. I think that the players are as frustrated as we are, right? They know they're good. They know they're used to winning games. And then this kind of whole thing has come out of nowhere. And I'm sure they've been trying to fix it in practice and just haven't been able to find the right combination, the right things to do to get there. And that's why this Leagues Cup break is so key. We're going to talk about that here in just a second. Let's give a shout out to Beyond Exercise, our second half sponsor. local physical therapy and fitness business that helps anyone get active and stay active. They help Nick Haglund. They've helped Brandon Vasquez with physical therapy and strength training needs. They're frequently there. Ask the fellows at Beyond Exercise about their ACL injury prevention screen, which was piloted with both Nick and Brandon. Learn more at gobeyondexercise.com. We thank them so much for their support of Cincinnati Soccer Talk, as well as all of you over on our Patreon page that keep Cincinnati CST running, our website, our photographers, our software. That's really all we need to keep things going. The guys here, we don't do much. There's a whole bunch of people behind the scenes that are doing a whole lot more, and you're taking care of them, which is awesome. So, Leagues Cup, are you thinking? First of all, let's talk about this for a second. Transfers are flying in and out of this league. There are trades being made. There are players being bought. I thought we were going to be a little faster. Like all this Weston McKennie stuff made me think we had things lined up. Should FC Cincinnati fans be panicking, Jason, because a move wasn't made in the first couple days of the trade window?
No. If I remember, the Miazga move took forever. If I'm remembering my history correctly, I think I have nothing to go on this, but I would imagine we get something done this week if, from what we've been hearing about this new center back, is true. Plus, with as much devastation has happened to our back line, who knows what Albright had in store, and now he's got to maybe flip his ideas of what he was going to do. So that might be part of it, is he's still trying to adapt to the new situation. Because it looked like we were going to try to move Bupenza out and then get a new striker, which still might happen. But I mean, now he's got to replace half a back line, and who knows, still trying to get a striker. So who's going to get the DP spot? What's the deal with Miazga's money, Haglund's money, that sort of thing?
Yeah. It was a little puzzling, just because we supposedly had our eyes on several people, but these deals do take a second to get through, and we'll see. I think we all agree something is going to happen.
I know that there were a few names that were sort of bandied about for center back within MLS. The one that I had my eyes on was Matt Hedges. Because he wasn't getting a lot of play for Austin. And then this weekend he plays a full 90 minutes against Charlotte. So I'd like to see a move sooner than later. Mm-hmm. But I also feel now that we're in Leagues Cup, I'm not in a rush. Mm-hmm. I want them to sign the dotted line very the best way that they've been able to. And that's making sure everything gets taken care of up to the line.
I think Albright's shown that he is going to go after the right guys, even if it takes some extra time. And so while I'm surprised we haven't heard anything in this first week, that it gives me hope that there's something, that there's pieces he's putting together to bring in maybe one or two guys that may surprise us, that weren't even on our radar as fans. We haven't heard much about it yet, including, in addition to maybe this other center back that we're talking about. But I would hope to hear something soon. Quite honestly, I think the fan base is like, what's happening, what's going on. And I think he's probably thinking for the future too. Like we talked about bringing in McKennie potentially in the midfield, but now we've lost Haglund. Who knows how, the condition he's going to be in, even after he comes back with the two injuries he's suffered in the last 2 years. The injury to Miazga's knee, what kind of condition is he going to be the same player when he comes back? We hope so. And then with Miles Robinson likely moving on next year, I think we're thinking about longer term future than maybe we were thinking initially this season.
Yeah, I was not expecting to have this big of a center back crisis. You're right, Brian. You might as well just make the show notes for the off season right now, because I think you're touching on a big conversation we're going to have later in the off season. How do we build the blocks back?
Let's also keep in mind that the transfer window just opened. So I think a lot of these moves that have been made already have been made ages ago. Like the Olivier Giroud move to LAFC was announced months ago. So I'd say let them cook a little bit and let's see what they're able to serve up.
We're panicking, Jeff. We need answers now.
I'm up in the press box half the time. I can't panic, guys.
I mean, at least I have confidence that FC Cincinnati is going to try to make itself better, whereas our baseball team in town is going to be like teetering on the edge of playoffs and then go, no, whatever, we're sellers. We're not even going to try. So,
can I just say, like, Clifford in the chat is questioning the right guys, bringing in Boop, and I have wholeheartedly agreed with that. I've been one of the biggest Bupenza haters on the show, I think. But the few minutes that we've seen of him in the last couple matches seems like he's a different player to me. He's not played as selfish ball, almost to the extent where I feel like he's been a little timid, more timid than he should be. He had a ball in the box that I think if he puts it on his left foot, he's got a shot, but he stops and he looks to see where Lucho was and pass the ball to Lucho in traffic. Lucho can get out of traffic, no doubt, but I feel like he's become a bit more of a team player in these weeks that he's had off. And so maybe he'll bring something if we don't dish him. I don't know. I'm not saying I want to keep him or not, but maybe he's a different player than we saw previously.
I did think in that game that you definitely should be playing him over Baird. Like there's no reason Boop should not be playing. If we have him on the roster anyway, like I'm over the punish him stage. I think he's learned his lesson. Put him in there.
Exactly.
Sorry, Jeff. I thought you were going there. We do have the money. We've got senior roster spots. We've got a supplemental roster spot. We've got 2 international spots. I think I'm trying to remember if we figured out if Buchita was one of those or not, but we have probably somewhere northwards of $1 million that we can use for buy downs, plus whatever Miazga, was getting. So there is room. In fact, you'll probably run out of money before you'll run out of things you can do, and there's still plenty of money. So Chris Albright has, and we've said this for weeks, we have options. We've got many ways you can patch up and fix FC Cincinnati here. So keep your eyes tuned to the news. I'm hoping when this podcast comes out tomorrow and all these people listening already know about one. But regardless, I think you're going to have several things coming here in the next week or two. How seriously are you guys taking Leagues Cup? I've already seen some people protesting it. I tell you what, FC Cincinnati, those tickets are going for decent price, so we're not going to have an empty stadium.
I'm not taking it super seriously, but while we've been talking, I filled out a bracket and had an all Mexico Final Four. Knowing our luck, we're going to wind up winning this thing and not even try. That's how it's going to work.
I'll take it.
Or Chicago or some team that you don't expect is going to win. It's going to be like Chicago versus Club America, and Chicago's going to wind up winning.
If we win Leagues Cup, I will join Brian Weigel for the first time ever saying Leagues Cup is the greatest.
I will say this much. I think I'm more attached to the Leagues Cup to use it as a judgment for how a team's going to do in the future. A lot of people last year were like, "Oh, St. Louis is great. St. Louis is great." They bombed out of the Leagues Cup. They looked very bad for what they were put together to be. If a team is goes all the way or looks really good, I don't think that's as much a judgment as it is the teams that crash out really early.
I'd like to see us do well, just because I want us to do well. But I do think we're going to see a lot of the younger players, maybe a couple from the 2 team move up. And I think it's a chance for them to prove themselves, right? We see the holes that we already have, and maybe these are some guys that we haven't seen yet that can fill it. Maybe not. That's why they're there. But I think it gives them a chance to get their legs under them with the ones team and give us a chance to see what's coming in the future, like Jeff said.
I will say this much: looking at the early league table for Liga MX, Querétaro is at the bottom. They are 0-4, -6 goal differential. So maybe that's a little bit of, I think, brightness in a sort of a cloudy week we've had.
Now, what if we win the first couple matches? Do we take it more seriously going in?
At some point they will. I don't know when that is, but yeah, at some point when you realize I'm only 3 wins away from a trophy, I think any team decides that, yeah, all of a sudden we're gonna play really, really well, and we're gonna go for it. We just don't have any defense, and I don't, unless somebody comes tomorrow and somehow magically integrates with the team. This is really what the best thing about this break is. We actually have time to get a player in and get that player on the field, just getting used to the game in MLS, especially if they're international, they come from overseas, and we don't have to waste those training games in season like you normally do. So I hope we get enough games for that. I'll take it seriously though if we get past the first round. I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna go. I'm personally not boycotting anything. I do love the Open Cup, but I'm still gonna watch soccer because I love soccer. So
we're in a group with, I can't pronounce Querétaro.
Yeah,
in New York City FC, I think,
and New York City. So that's a winnable group.
I think it's best that we win that group, because if we do, we'll face the runner-up within either Atlanta, Santos Laguna, or DC United. And even more importantly, we stay out of the branch that is Columbus and Miami, I think.
We could wind up in Columbus's group.
We could.
Their branch. It's kind of a bummer though that we won't.
That's if we
play
finish
Monterrey unless we get to the final though and see our boy Brandon again.
If we don't finish first in the group, that's when we go into Columbus. Is that what I'm hearing?
If we don't finish first in the group, there's a better chance we'll face Columbus at the earlier stages.
Okay. So last year we made it through, and it wasn't too terrible. I think we won a game I didn't expect us to win versus Club America. So this will be interesting, and to see how we play. Another team, New York City FC. They are who they are. Is that match in Cincinnati? I can't remember.
I think both games are in Cincinnati.
Good. Oh yeah, because it's based off of your record last year, right? So yeah, yes. We're hosting. So that's way better than playing at Yankee Stadium. And yeah, I'll be out there. It'll be a night out. So I'm just not going to if we lose or it's just not the world's greatest game. I'm not going to be leaving the stadium kicking my heels like I do when we lose a real game.
The other good thing is that New York City and Querétaro play each other in the first game, so they're July 28th. So we get a little bit more of a break going into it.
And I'm with you, Boston. I think this is a good time for a reset. To get everybody healthy and get everybody back on the same page. Because one thing I noticed in these past 2 games is the team kind of seemed defeated. Yes, on the scoreboard they were defeated, but there were times where the guys were body language just seemed bad.
Yeah, Lucho also seems hurt.
Yeah, so it'd be a good time to get everybody back in a positive attitude.
Yeah, if Lucho even has a teeny tiny sprain, I don't want him out there on August 1st. Just it's not worth it. He let him heal up and play the games that matter. If he doesn't play till the 3rd Leagues Cup game, I won't care.
Be prepared to chain him to the bench because there's no way he's gonna.
I know, but at that point, that's where Noonan's a coach, and you just have to say, listen, there's no points, there's no standing points. We need you in the close of the season. We need aggressive, not afraid to twist and turn and spin around magical Lucho, and he just was not himself, in my opinion, versus New York. He just seemed like he was a half of a Lucho, and so to me that means he's hurt. The last time Lucho was a half a Lucho was last year when he was fighting that foot pain.
Yeah.
We saw the All-Star game this week that he's captaining. So how much time is he getting Wednesday night?
If he gets more than 20 minutes, I'm going to be upset.
Yeah.
30 minutes.
He'll get slightly more than the average player because he's a captain, but they don't play a lot. They sub him out.
Yeah.
Is it? I totally forgot. Is it MLS versus Liga Meki again?
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Yeah, I like that a lot better than whatever that last year Arsenal thing was. That's not that when we play just some random EPL team.
Yeah, it's not good.
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why we do that. Then
I like it.
We got
I wish they would go back to East versus West though. Like the league is established enough now that if you're gonna do it East versus West.
The only reason you want to go East versus West is because then Miami would be on our side.
Well, if ideally, I wish MLS. I understand why they do an All-Star game. Ideally, I'd like MLS to do like the NFL does with the Pro Bowl. Have something at the end of the season. Send them down to play at like I don't know Miami or Austin or somewhere nice and warm, but have it at the end of the season, while the other leagues are in full swing or something.
I think one of the best All-Star games I ever saw in my life was this weekend. It was the WNBA versus the Olympic team. So it was like it was like the Olympic team versus all the people that got snubbed for the Olympic team. and WNBA beat them. It was awesome.
That's why you would never see MLS versus the U.S. men's national team. Because MLS would beat them.
It was such a good game. They were fighting with so much heart, and like both sides did not want to lose that game. And I mean, I don't watch a lot of WNBA, but I was on the edge of my seat. It was awesome. So I would have totally loved to see that happen this year. You know, the best of Major League Soccer versus the United States men's national team.
That could be ugly in all sorts of ways.
I know. Like you see Lucho Acosta, like what if Lucho Acosta injured Christian Pulisic? Like it would be a nightmare.
Or just cut him up. Just slice and dice their midfield.
And then his visa comes through and he gets to just take a spot. I'm writing a movie script here. The rise of Lucho, the United States player.
Oh man.
Oh man. Shoot. Copa America just finished up. Congratulations, Argentina, but you did gift us an injured Messi, so now all of us get to wonder if we play him again. I think we talked a little bit about that last week. United States men's national team still searching for a coach. So that's all the little tidbits out there. Is anybody else in the league playing, or is it officially like MLS is over till August?
Yeah, I think that's the case.
Okay. Yep. All right. So we're all done. So the only thing we have is Lucho and company at the All-Star game. And then, man, that's 8 days. That's 8 days till they play again. So, yeah, definitely a bit of a break. All right. Guess we're all waiting on transfer news because there's nothing else to do. Skill challenge. If you haven't ever watched MLS All-Star game, the skill challenge is pretty fun. I would encourage you, even if you have no desire to tune into the game itself, I'd at least tune in for the skill challenge. We got to see some cool stuff with Brandon Vasquez last year. It was pretty fun.
Do they have goalie wars this year?
No, I don't think so.
No? Oh, crap.
They never bring it back, even though everybody wants it.
It's a shame.
When they do, they should put that sucker like on primetime ESPN and advertise the crap out of it. All right. Well, let's get out of here. We'll get into your final thoughts. The clock has tipped into the 10 p.m. realm. We will let's do it backwards. Let's start with you, Brian.
Yeah. My final thoughts, man, just coming off this 3-week or 3-match loss streak is, I said at the top of the show, is just the sinking feeling that I have. I'm glad we're here at the break. I do want to see Lucho get healthy. I want to see what we do in this transfer window. And again, I'd like to see someone come in sooner than later. And as quiet as it's been, it makes me a little nervous because we do want to see them come in and get some minutes during this League's Cup break. But the longer we wait, who knows? So I guess my final thought is I'm just glad we're here at the break, and I'm waiting to see our team back in action and whatever the pieces they put together look like when we get back into regular league play.
Private jets still fly, even when the team's not playing. So I think we'll be all right there as long as let's set a deadline for him. FC Cincinnati, Cincinnati Soccer Talk expects you to have a player here before July 31st. So that's your deadline. All right, Jeff.
All right, I'll say that. Hey, it's July, so it's the peak season. So let me cherry pick a little bit here. I used to be a Revolution fan, and back in 2014, they lost 8 matches in a row during the summer. 8. And they had to get like 4 points out of 11 matches. They still made the playoffs as a number 2 team and went all the way to MLS Cup. So please do not hit any ejector seats. Do not panic. 3 losses in a row is something we haven't seen in a long time. If it starts to build, by all means, you can hit that shiny button and say it's a lost season. But for right now, we're still in it. We're still one of the best teams in the league, and let's just leave it as that.
Yeah, if we can shake off the juju and make a run for it, then I agree with you, man. Jason.
Speaking of best teams in the league, I am excited about this back half of the MLS regular season because if you've not looked at the Supporters Shield standings right now, they are tight. Just 10 points separates the first place Miami, Inter Miami, from the 6th place Columbus Crew. We are only 5 points back. LA Galaxy are in 2nd place in the Supporter Shield standings. It is going to be a fun race to the end of the season, which is not, I don't think it's something we've seen in the past few years. It seems like the past couple of years, the team has ran away with it with a few weeks left. Anything can happen, but it's going to be, I'm hoping it comes down to the last day. That's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm giving MLS 360 a big workout every night, every Saturday, because of just how tight this Supporter Shield race is going to be.
Thanks, Jason. Pleasure to have you on. My final thoughts are: I've been thinking about you, TQL Stadium Field pitch. I'm happy you have a break because it hasn't been those roots haven't taken root enough that is a very fun and playable surface. So the real reason we've lost games is because our pitch just wasn't up to snuff, and I'm gonna go with that take. And really, the real winner here is the grounds crew that get to actually baby it and just give it time to take hold, so that maybe we don't see patches of grass coming up on this next one. I do think the field switch is the best long-term play, but man, it sucks that we had to go 4 days from putting it down, to playing on it. And so I don't think that's fun for either team. So shout out grounds crew. You don't get many shout outs on this show. So, stay tuned for the next one's probably in 3 years. All right. When you change fields again. Thanks for tuning in this week. We appreciate you listening to the good old episode 382. We'll be back next week. I think Brian Weigel said he really is looking forward to coming back and kicking one of these 3 off the show. So, good. Should we come back and do a Leagues Cup special? We might. Well, we're going to talk about that internally. So we'll figure it out. All right. See you next week. Maybe.